Alright, so as I mentioned, I'm making the video tutorial regarding the lighting and rendering. So I got here Mike's file, okay, and we have our HDRI, and you have the back face culling on, which is good, right here. Okay. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is, well, I need to set up a shot composition, a render shot. Alright, so you got your render cam there, good. I'm gonna do two panels, layouts, two panes side by side. Alright. Okay. I'll make this one, you know what? Panels, perspective, render cam. Okay, so I have this here, and you locked it. Alright. I do have some issues regarding the setup, composition. First of all, it's getting close to clipping here, right here. In terms of setting up a composition, that's kind of like a no-no. And your main subject is kind of far away, and the angle of it is kind of, I guess, distorted in a way too. So I want to work on that. I'm gonna let go of your lock, and I'm trying to stage a nice shot composition. Maybe something like this. And I'm considering lines, where the lines are going. Maybe something like that. So I get to see this line coming across, so this kind of sets the stage. Help to ground our shot visually. Something like that. So I have this area here, and now we have this color space right here, and then now you have your subject. It's pretty much almost in the center. The other thing too is shot composition is where our design sense is that you want to have things nicely balanced, at least initially. You know, when you get better and better at design, you get to break rules and, you know, and whatnot. But for like an introductory course, you want to stick to tried and true balance, design balance. For example, here's our subject matter. It's right in the middle. Okay. And all right, you got negative space here, and that's balanced out with negative space here. And the ceiling also has space, so you got space, 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 and this here kind of counts as space, but not really, because you have a subject, the platform. Okay, so it's balanced out. That's one thing. So you want to always balance your shot. Okay, so we did that. Now I'm gonna lock it. All right, good. So number one thing is shot composition. Number one thing, always have that. And you could look this up on YouTube and learn some more on your own time, how to set up a nice shot composition. This also translates into photography, all aspects of art and design. It's that important, because you could have an amazing render, you know, with lots of lights and shaders and all that, but if the composition sucks ass, then, you know, it's just ruined. All right, so okay, let's do a test render. I want to see what we got. I'm gonna pull up my Arnold open Arnold render view. Here it is. Alright, number one thing, let's set to render cam. Okay, because first it was set to perspective, I'm going to set to render cam. And I'm going to pause the video. And this is what I got. Okay. Alright. What do I want to do first? Well, first let's fix the graininess. Remember I mentioned that in class? So I'm going to open up the render globals over here. Render globals. Or render settings. And let's review about the denoiser that I mentioned was super important. So you're going to use the denoiser, N-O-I-C-E, denoiser Noice. I don't know how you pronounce that, but whatever. FYI, if you have a NVIDIA GPU, you're gonna probably want to use optics. Or if you have, or you're stuck with having an Intel computer chip, you could use Odin. But I believe Noice is the one that Arnold ships with, the denoiser, I think. Anyway, choose that. Boom. Nice. Very clean. See? And it didn't take up too much time, or at least on my computer. So I'm going to save a snapshot. Alright. You know what, first, let me delete that. Where's the delete? I'm going to turn that off. Now I'm going to save a snapshot. This is how you turn it off. And then click. Okay, there. So before, and I uncheck it after. So I click on my old snapshot. Here it is, grainy. And I'm going to let go of it. Here it is, clean. Be mindful of that. So on, off, on. Off, on. And the snapshot, denoiser. And let's say if you end up getting a NVIDIA graphics card, then you're gonna want to use optics. So your main choices generally is this when you're at school with the Mac computers, and this if you have your own computer at home with a NVIDIA graphics card. Alright, always have that available for you. Okay. Next, well, we have our S. Oh, that needs to be cleaned up. I thought we fixed that. Whatever. Okay. Next, you're gonna want to at least have your ray depth to 2. And ray depth, basically fancy words for how many bounces the light is gonna have. How many bounces? You're gonna want to have at least 2 bounces. Specular, yeah, let's make it 2. 2 bounces for the specular as well. Alright. Okay. Specular is the shininess, and how many times that shininess bounces off. Diffuse is how many times the light, the color, bounces off as well. Yeah, the color of your objects as well as the light, the light energy. All right, so we did that. Next, okay, I'm gonna select your area light. I'm gonna take a look at it over here. Alright, so unfortunately we have a mistake. It's the same one that I mentioned in class. I'm going to pull on the blue handle here. This is R as in scale. I'm going to pull on the blue handle and you'll see that you're aiming it behind. This here is the blue handle for the move, right? But it's the blue handle for the scale. And it's going this way. See? So your light is actually facing going this way and it's not affecting your scene. But you have your negative 720, that's weird. It should be a negative 180. There, see? We flipped it over now. So maybe that might have been what confused you a bit. You know, maybe you thought that the move handle, since it was blue, that maybe because of that, you thought maybe it was facing the right way. I don't know, but you have to base off of the scale. See how it's looking this way? Or not only that, but when you let go of it and you see the area light, you see its red color line. It's pointing that way. You have to be really, really careful about that. Okay, next. I'm getting annoyed with the infinity wall. The other thing is that the infinity wall, it hasn't been in the display layer because you set it to reference, but it's still being selected. So let's select it. I select the infinity wall. Right click on it, add selected objects. Okay, so it's inside there and I can't select it. Good. Alright, now I'm gonna select your AR light. Go to the attribute editor. Alright, so exposure is set to 0. Let's set it to, say, I don't know, 7. Leave the intensity alone. Still render. With render, update full scene. So as you can see, it already before with the graininess, and then after, obviously with the graininess off, and it's lighter. See, watch, before, after. Huge difference. Massive, massive difference. See, dark, lighter. That's number one thing. Alright, next. Alright, it's far away, just enough. Another thing too is, let's make a snapshot. So we save it. Before, after. And then I'm going to let go of the snapshot. Now, what if I were to pull this back? Or pull it forward? Let's try pulling it back. And the reason why is that this is an example of the quadratic fall off that I mentioned, where the further you push it back, the less energy the area light is giving off. So render, update full scene. Huh. That's so strange. It should be weaker, but it's not. Bizarre. Wow. Now I'm confused. Let's try bringing it way back in to here. Because it should be weaker. I don't understand. Or right here. Really close. Let's do a render. This now should be brighter. Oh, something's weird now. What's going on? It should be a lot brighter. Okay. Oh, I hate it when things like this happen. I'm gonna turn it off. This is illuminate by default. That's the off switch. Let's do a render. I'm guessing it's gonna look the same. No difference at all. That is so weird. What's going on? Maybe it looks lighter because of the optics, the denoiser. It made me think that the scene is brighter, but it's just the cleanup that makes it look brighter instead. It's things like this that are just annoys me. All right, fine. All right, so anyway, I did a test. I turned it off. It still looks the same. You know, I mean, minus the graininess gone, but even without it. So this is before, when I had the on. I mean, ignore that. When I had the area light on, and I'm gonna let go of it. This is when I let go. It's gonna be after. Still the same thing. All right, fine. So at least right now we're looking at how to troubleshoot what's going on, because this is bizarre. I have your area selected. I'm going to turn it back on. Now I'm going to crank the exposure to, like, I don't know, 20. Let's see if that does anything. Okay, finally, it does do something. Jeez. Let's make it 15. So technically, this here, this here, and then, okay, here, let me get rid of this. All right, so this is the original, okay, and this is after I pumped it up to 15. All right, so before, where the area light did absolutely nothing, and after. Okay, good. Before, after. So you can see it much brighter. See? See? Okay. Over here, shining through. Right here. And over here too, you can see. Alright. So yeah, let's set it to, like, say 15, right? Okay. Other thing too is with your lights, you do not want it to kind of intersect into your mesh, like something like this. You don't want to do things like that, because you'll see a seam line in terms of the light, like that. You'll see the light line apparent. So always have it, for the most part, above. Okay. All right. So we got our area light. Lesson learned, crank it to 15. And if you want, you could change the color. You could experiment. So you could get the eyedropper and do something like that, like the background color. And you could kind of mess with that, put that value, saturation, hue. Okay, let's see what that does. Alright, so I'm going to do a Control U is a hotkey for update full scene. So before, the white colored area light, and after, see? Gives off a yellow hue. Before, after. See? Alright. I kind of like that. It kind of makes sense that it throws off yellow color because the wall is yellow. And it kind of fakes color bleed. Okay. Next. Let's look at your sky dome light. Alright, you got your exposure to 0.5. Alright. Let me look at your rim light again. Oh. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Let's save this render. The one we have with the yellow light for your rim light. So, boom. This is with no area lights working. This is after cranking the area light to 15 and still with a white color. And this is with the yellow color instead. Alright, so this is how you make progression, step by step. Very tedious, step by step. Okay, next. I talked about adding glass, right? Let's add the glass. Let's kind of shift gears a bit and add the glass because a lot of students were asking about that too. So I'm gonna hit the hypershade. Alright, I got a whole bunch of junk going on. Press the 3 stars, clean out the scene. I'm gonna hit tab, right? AI standard, okay? Again, tab, and type in AI standard surface. Alright. And me personally, I don't work with the material viewer and the property editor. Again, the property editor is the same thing as the attribute editor. I don't work with that. I just want nice, large space. I work in the attribute editor here. Okay. This tab right there. And again, to get it to become a glass, it is over here. Presets, right here. First, let's name it. I'm going to name it Glass Shader. Glass Shader, name it. Presets. Click it. Here's the presets. I'm going to click on Glass. Replace. Boom. Now I changed it to completely black. Okay, again, you select the shader. You go to the attribute editor. Presets. Glass. Replace. Alright, let's do a render. Oh, I forgot. You have to apply. You have to assign it. I grab that one. Shift select that one. Shift select that one carefully. Don't mind me. I'm just testing something. All right. I selected it. Here's your glass shader. Again, do not click on it. You click on it, you're going to let go of these. Watch. Let's say I click on it. Boom. Now you have to select it again. So do not click on the shader. Right click on it and hold assign material to viewport selection. Boom. Now it changed. And I'm looking here. As you can see, it's transparent. If I do Option 5 or Alt 5, which shows wireframe on 3D models, okay, then you can see the actual shape of it. Alright, next. Now I signed it. Now I'm going to do a render. Control U. So you get to see. See? But it looks kind of off, right? It looks kind of off. Let's save it. Before, after. Alright. Next. Let's mess around with the shader. Glass shader. Okay. Alright. I want to go back to the render settings. Okay, again, that's over here. Now, remember I talked about the ray depth in class and even just in this tutorial. The diffuse bounces, let's set it to 5. The reason why is when the light hits the glass shader, it's gonna react differently when you set it to 5. Because it will have like 5 bounces. It will bounce around every other object in the scene. And it will also affect your shaders that are not glass. It will affect the entire scene basically at 5 bounces. It's pretty dramatic. So I'm going to do a render. So that took me 5 seconds. But my computer is really fast. It's literally 3 times faster than the computers at school. Maybe even 4 times faster. But so here's before. So look at here and here and after. Before, after. So it's the reason why it's so much brighter is because it's literally bouncing around on the surfaces and illuminating it, which is, you know, why it's a global illumination, globally affecting the scene and the objects. But the glass, subtle, but not much. Okay. Before, after. Let's save it. Now I'm gonna crank up the specular to 5. 5 bounces on the specular. This is gonna have a dramatic impact. I'm gonna do a render, Control U. Okay, so that took 7 seconds. So before, after. See? Got that nice shine. Before, after. Right here. See? See? Now it's behaving more and more like glass. Little things like that. So you get to see the backside. See? Right here, right here. Alright. So we'll roll 5 and 5. Okay. If you don't do this, you're not going to get your glass. Okay. Same for the other students. Alright, so you got your camera AA to 3. So it's still, you know, going to render pretty decent fast. Okay. Next. Your banner. Right, your banner, and also one thing. Alright, so I paused the video and I did a bigger render. I need to do this because for the sake of the tutorial, so I can have it bigger so you can see the differences better instead of me just zooming in like crazy. So I want to go back and talk about the glass shader again. So one minor nuance that I mentioned is of having your roughness, to give it a bit of a roughness texture to the glass, so it's not as a perfect glass. Okay, so if you look here, right, This is a really dumb version of a preview for your glass shader, but you see there's nothing here, right? If I type in 0.085, small increment, like that much. Well, this is not really small, but it's about 10%. You see it updates with something now. And let's do a render. I'm gonna pause. Alright, so this is with perfect reflections. You see that? Right? But with the little roughness that I gave at 0.085, which is like 10%, this is after. See, it dulled it out a lot. Maybe a bit too much, you know. See, before, after. So kind of gave that glazed look. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I'll save it, but I'm gonna set it back to like 0.075 or maybe 0.0, I don't know, 5. So that much. So this looks like about, I don't know, 1/20th maybe, 0.05. Let's do a render. Alright, so this is at 0.05. So you can see the difference. Before, super blurry. After, you can see a little bit more. So this is perfect reflection. And then at 0.05, I'm going to let go. Boom. And then this one is more blurry when I click on it. Boom. See? So this is the process of lighting and rendering. So before, pretty blurry. After, less blurry. And you can see a little bit more. Alright, so before, pretty blurry. After, a little bit less blurry. And if I click on this one, no blurriness. So you kind of pick and choose. I think I like this one. I will stay away from perfect reflections because this is something out of like 1990s where you just have perfect reflections. I don't think they had that technology to make it blurry as much back like 20-25 years ago, 30 years ago. So but now, nice and delicate refractions and reflections compared to too blurry, subtle blurriness. I like that, at least for your scene. Every scene is different, but whatever. So yeah, 0.05 roughness. Alright, so next thing, I had paused the video, right? And the other thing I mentioned in class was your transmission, the color. Okay? In class I mentioned to dial it down to like to here, right around here, under transmission. Why is this blinking? Whatever. So your transmission, it was naturally bright white. Now I dial it down to here. And the effect of it is where right now this is before the effect has been applied. And if I let go of it, it's going to show the render that I did before, and I'm going to let go after. So it's more believable. So before, after, before, after. It looks more solid. See? See? Before, after. So that's the transmission. I mean, I can't really explain it, you know, even if I did, it's just technical gibberish. Just visual wise, that's what you get. Like the whiteness of it, the reflecting off, more subdued, which I like. And if you even look down here, the contacts, see, it gives them more I think it gives more property values of glass. Furthermore, before, after, see. So yeah, before it was complete white, drop it down to around here for your transmission to fine tune the glass. Okay, next. I want to look at something. Here's your your regular camera. I'm gonna take a look at this. I select it, press F to frame and zoom it. Yeah, I mean, you have it pretty close, right? Yeah. Yeah, you have it pretty close, snug. Ooh, what the hell? Yeah, one of those is off. This guy. Why? See? Here's this one and this one. This needs to come back in more. Like at least here. It has to be more aligned. I'm zooming in. See, here's your other lines. See? Oh, that's a platform. Yeah, this one. Yeah, I'm zooming in. Yeah, see? You got your two other lines going on here. This one, why is it? Yeah, you got some warping going on. Alright, whatever. Yeah, this one too. Yeah, your surface isn't completely flat. It's kind of skewed a little. See, you got double lines. I'm just flattening it. This one's fine. Yeah, this one's fine too for the most part. Alright. See, even your small one, why is it over here? See, this one's fine. This one's fine. Right? It's snug. This one is way out there. Let's bring it back in so it's kind of close to your model. I don't want to make it. See, this is the reason why. See how it's like that? It kind of gives that, you know, I don't know, it just looks off. That's what I was paying attention to. So I brought it back in. Alright, let's do a render. Alright, so ignore the shader part, but look at the banners. These two. See, we brought it back in to be more snug. This one and this one. Good. Alright. So next. Alright. The glass shader. I'm looking at the coat properties. How the coating of the shader, the coating of it, is affecting things. So, like for example, car paint. You know, metallic car paint has several coatings of things, you know. Or high-end products, you know, they have its own layers of coating and whatnot. Like for example, I don't know, like furniture wood, right? It has you know, your base layer, which is just the wood. Then they put what, varnish on it, and then a couple other layers of, I don't know, maybe chemicals or whatnot to give it that final product look, right? So shaders are very similar, where it has coatings, you know, that can be applied to it to affect the overall look of your shader. So anyway, blah blah blah. What I did was, when I was experimenting with the shader for this project, having your coat affect roughness. If you crank that down, okay, coat effect roughness under your coating, your coat, right? So oh, let's make sure to save it, right? I'm gonna do a render. All right, so I did the render, you know, to test out the having the coat effect roughness, right? Where previously it was set to 1. But now I dropped it back to 0. But it looks like it didn't do anything, which is strange, because I know that it does do something. I spent hours fine-tuning this glass shader. But my hunch is that you'll see the results when I have a couple more area lights applied to the scene. But I know it does do something. But for now, I cranked it back down to 0 basically for the coat. And sheen, nothing. Emission. Alright, and the other one is your emission. In class, I mentioned to make the emission at 0.005. Okay. And I'll show the results of it. Let me pause it. Alright, so with the emission set to 0.005, right? So it's really, really subtle. And I'm pretty sure once I add 2 more fill lights or 2 more area lights, it'll have a bigger difference. But this is based off of just 1 area light. So before, if you look at this area here, so this is before, after. So before, after, it's lighter, see? So this is before, let your eyes just read it, and I'm gonna let go, after, so it's brighter. In between the crevices of, between the objects. So I'm gonna zoom out, before, after, see? Even here, before, after. Right here. So right now it seems like, what's the big deal? You know, like, but then my hunch is, again, after I add 2 more area lights, things get more and more amplified. And that's when everything starts to come together and you see it. Again, which is based off of, right, so everything's based off of this project that I made, right? So this project that this class, you know, lesson curriculum is based off of, I have multiple light sources. And the thing with lighting is that it has a additive effect. When you have to consider shaders and lights and global illumination, there's a additive effect. There's an exponential effect because things interact with each other. So yeah, so when I add the extra lights, you'll start to see more and more. All right, so yeah, get that out of the way. Back to this. Before, after, not much of a big deal. But when we add extra lights, it will become a big deal. Okay, next. Other thing too is your RimLight. Set the samples to 2 because that affects the shadow, the quality of it, and I think arguably it also affects how it interacts with the objects too. So set it to 2 samples, no more than that. And soft edge, the shadows, it'll have a softer edge, I believe, from what I remember. But all I know is that it looks better. So crank it to 1. Samples to 2, soft edge to 1. This is for your area lights. Okay. As a matter of fact, let me do a render. Alright, so big difference. Before, without affecting the samples and soft edge. After, boom, huge difference. Before, after, before, even here, after, before, after, before, after. That is based off of the soft edge. Not so much the samples, but 100% the soft edge. It was 0, I cranked it up to 1. Samples, not so much, but soft edge. Again, before, after. Massive difference. The glass as well as the interaction with the other materials. Before, after. Even the shadows. See that? Before. See? Very nice. See that? Nice. Overall soft edge. Samples, not much. But final render wise, yeah, you want to set it to 2. Alright, good. Next. Oh, I mentioned the imagers, right? We're gonna add the lens effect. Okay, I added it. It's calculating. So I added a lens effect. Here's my attribute editor for it. If you do not see this, for whatever reason, always look at the tabs. Now I'm gonna set the strength to like 1. Ooh, look at that. Maybe it's too strong. Or maybe set it to 1, but this threshold I'll set it to 0.65. Ooh, that's way too much. Maybe I'll set the strength to like, I don't know, 0.75. Maybe I'll just use a dial, maybe. Set the Alright. So, before, after. Before, after. See, even the pictures, it's picking up that bloom effect. Before, after. Sweet. Okay, so that's your bloom. Under our render settings, lens effect. And like I mentioned before, this thing wasn't working on the Macs last semester, but now it does. So you're lucky. Alright. So you can, mess around with the dials. And FYI, this is a post-processing effect. So whatever render is done, the lens effect kicks in after the render. Boom. So I like this. And there's the radius. You could change the tint as well. I kind of like the tint. It's white. It has a nice contrast with the yellow. So I kind of like that. So you can change it if you want as well. but I wouldn't go crazy with this. Yeah. Okay, so the strength threshold is basically, I think my feeling is it's like how much it bleeds out, but that's kind of like the radius too. But yeah, it's just threshold, because the lower you go, the stronger it gets for the threshold. Yeah. Alright. And the threshold, it kind of, when you get set it to lower, it amplifies the strength of the bloom. But this is kind of like a safe bet. The radius is how much it blooms. You could set it to 3. So let me first save this. It's kind of a bit much. So maybe I'll set it to 3 so you can see the effect. Wait for it. Oh, so before, after. Before, see that? Let go, after. Subtle. See? Maybe this is better. Before, after. A lot of times in art and design, less is more. I mean, this is nice too. Has a dreamy effect. This is more subtle. Maybe we'll go for a subtle one. Alright. So I set the radius to 3. Alright, what else? Alright. Oh, yeah. I mentioned regarding the banners. The banners have also a couple of special attributes. So, one second. Alright. Where's your banners? We click on that. Oh no, click on this. I select the shader. I want to see its network, so I click on that. Remember? Okay. Hey, you haven't named this. Banner middle. Okay. Alright. So, let me just double check. Okay, so I'm looking at your banner middle, just by randomly, in terms of what I'm selecting. Let me get out of this. Panel, perspective. I don't like selecting the sky dome light every time too. I'm gonna add it here. Set to reference. Super annoying. So your banner. Right click, select objects. So it's this one. Press 6 so I can see it. F to move in. Let me just double check something. Oh, it's flipped. Alright. So I think when I scaled it, or I'm not sure, but your image is, or it might have been like that anyway. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's flipped. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm gonna go to, I have it selected. I'm gonna go to modeling, mesh display, reverse. Good. Yeah, so I selected it. because there's a front and a front. There's a front and a back to models. See, front, back. Previously, it was flipped, where it was facing this way. I think it might have been because of when I scaled your image to be flattened, because it was kind of wobbly looking when I was looking at it from top down. So when I scaled it, it might have reversed the scale on the Z. See, there's a 0 here. Set to 1. Good. Now it's 1 to 1. 1, 1, 1. You could just ignore it for now, but it happened because I was correcting your image. Other thing too is, all right, Tom Brady. I kind of don't like this how it's so near its edge. I'm gonna go into the UV editor, which is a polymodeling tab, or again, it's under UV editor. Here it is. I want to see it. I'm gonna press this guy right here, so it's in blue. Right click. Ooh, right. I can't mess with it. I mean, I shouldn't mess with it. If I do it carefully, so I'm moving it this way. In class, I said once your UV is set, don't mess with it, because it has to do also with later on when you learn character like rigging and stuff. You don't mess with the UVs, but for right now. Also, you have your lines. You forgot to hide your UV lines in Photoshop. I highly recommend hiding your UV lines. And then I'm just going to show what I'm trying to get at. Right now, I'm scaling everything as a whole. I'm not pushing and pulling individual UVs, because if I do that, see what happens? That's why you want to select it as a whole. I'm just kind of aligning it. I kind of like something more like this, you know, like that. This is, I don't know, something like that. So what you could do is, in Photoshop, you could rotate your image. Instead of me rotating your UVs in Maya, I'm just doing this to kind of show visually what I'm talking about. So in Photoshop, I highly recommend making this a little bit more, you know, up and down instead of going diagonal, right? So I'm gonna undo it, right? Yeah, that's what I recommend, but you know, it's up to you. I would at least do this, so you give it some more space. See, I would at least do that. So in Photoshop, you could do that. Move the image, and I would also do something like that to give it space here. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next. Right, your banner. Attribute editor. All right. I noticed you set the specular to 1. specular and weight, basically what that means is that do you want it to have a metallic property to it? Meaning like the shine, you know, metal objects have a shine. So right now the weight is basically to 1, meaning like how metallic is it, you know? Drop it down to 0. What else? What else? Let's do a render. And I have the interactive render turned off because I want to do it step by step. Alright, so don't mind this, and don't mind the glow being less evident. So here, so if I look at it, before, after, and surprisingly enough, this nice lighting effect on the shader is gone. That's because this was having a metal property to it, so it's bouncing off light a lot, which allowed this text to be illuminated more. So this was acting as a metal reflective surface for the light to kind of blast through here. But since I turned off its metallic attribute to 0, now it's not giving off a bounce. That's why it's darker. But I would keep it safe and keep this to 0, because the specular it acts as a additive effect to the lighting, because literally it acts as a bounce card to bounce off the light. Which is why you got this secondary accidental effect that looks nice. But I will turn it off because I'm gonna get this same effect using another area light, which was part of the lesson anyway. So I'm gonna save it. So I turned the specular down to 0. The other thing I did was your transmission. I set it to 1. And what else? 1 and white. Depth is 0, scatter. Right. So transmission, I set it to 1 for the banner. And I also set the scatter. I'm not gonna even pronounce this. No, not that. Not that. Right. Set it to 1 and white. 0, black. Boom, boom, boom. Anyway, so I set your transmission to 1. Right, before it was 0, meaning no effect. 1 turns it on. And let's see what that does. Okay, so I have it. I have the previous one saved. I'm gonna hit render. Alright, so like I mentioned before, set your transmission to 1. That means transmission means okay, for your banner middle, right? Your banner. If I set it to 1 for the transmission, that means it's completely transparent, like completely see-through, like acting as like a glass, meaning completely see-through. So I'm gonna do a render. Let me pause it. Alright, so obviously this looks terrible. I was going back and forth, and I also mentioned before to set it to white, right? So let me set that back up. But again, this is black because the color is black. But if I set it to white now, the white acts as a, you could say, transparency. Yeah, it acts as a transparency. If I set the weight, I mean the color to white and the weight to full strength. But why am I doing all this? So all I did was make your card basically invisible. But if I were to pull this back up, okay, and here's your banner middle. Again, if you don't see it, let me grab your banner middle, press this guy so I can see the network. Here we are. Other thing I want to share is how to plug in the same texture, right? Alright, good. Here's your shader. Here's the texture, right? I'm not selecting it because if I select it, it's gonna change. So, but I have this first selected, so it's activated the shader list. Here's my the texture, right? I'm gonna middle click on it and hold. See how it turns into a plus sign? See? It turns into a plus sign. Middle click on it and hold. I'm gonna drag it and I'm gonna drop it into the transmission's color. Okay, again, I have my banner selected. Here's my banner, the file container. Middle click on it and hold. Drag it and drop it into the transmission's color. Transmission's color. Now it's color, out color, going to the base, as well as the transmission color. So what the hell does all this mean? So whereas before it was completely clear because the white color acts as a complete transparency. But since your texture also has a white background, right? Anyway, this is going to confuse you. Let's just see what happens. So we got this neat effect where for the transmission, you get to kind of have a see-through. I kind of like it better than this. This is kind of, I mean, I kind of like this too, but at least this is different. So the transmission, set it to 1. The color, I pumped in its actual image of Tom Brady, right? Where I grabbed the banner, middle click, and I dragged it into the color. Okay. So what that did was anything in white, it made it transparent. Anything else in color, it's gonna show through. See? His jersey was white, so it's kind of, well, you get to see these lines. But over here it's completely white. I mean, completely transparent. It acts as a cutout, basically. It's confusing, but I like it. Up to you. If you don't like the saturation of Tom Brady, what you could do is, you could crank up Tom Brady, right, in Photoshop to increase the exposure. Yeah. And then when you bring it back into Maya, it should update to be brighter. But I like this. I like how it's dark. I mean, dark, and the center is different. But it's up to you. For other students, this may or may not work. You could try it out. If you don't like it, just undo it. Alright, but yeah, basically, so there's that one option you could do. And then the other one I mentioned was emission. If you set to say like 2, right? Here's your Tom Brady shader. And then I'm gonna pump its texture image, middle mouse, click and hold, pump it into the color. See what that does. Alright, so it did this, it brought back the white. So, but for the other students, you do want to do this regardless. Emission, crank it to 2, and pump your texture image for this specific banner into the color using the middle mouse drag. So before, oh, I lost the other image. But, so anyhow, before you had this. Yeah. Whereas before and after, so even the whites now have a bit more halo, and the seam line, see how you could see it clearly? Well, now that the emission is cranking out color and light, this has a more of a haziness to it, which is being amplified, which is possible because of because of this, the bloom effect from your lens effect, right? Before, boom. So basically, when I pumped in Tom Brady into the color, and I set the weight to 2, which is how strong it is, it causes the color to pump out light from it, emission. It's emitting, not emitting, but it's blasting out color, light, and causing a nice glow to the surrounding. So I like that too. So a lot of it is experimentation, what you like, what you don't. And now we get back our color here. Alright, fine, let's keep it that way. So overall emission, set it to 2, pump in Tom Brady's or your texture into the color, middle mouse drag. Transmission, yeah, set it to 1. Color, pump in the texture into color as well. Yeah, might as well keep it that way. Black, white, black, regardless. And that looks good. Next, you gotta do it to, let's do it to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, let me save this. Always save your work. Michael Jordan, I selected the 3D banner. I don't want to go through here. I'm going to just click on this. Now I got Michael Jordan. Alright. Alright, so Jordan, set the specular to 0. I don't want it metallic. Transmission, set it to 1. See how it's see how it disappeared? Because it's now it's completely transparent. But this one, I'm not gonna pump in the color. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to its emission for the Jordan, right? Go to its emission. I'm gonna middle mouse, click here, drag it to here, let go. So into this. Set the weight to, I don't know, 2. See what it did? And if you look here, ooh, look at that. This is the reason why I did that. See how it's transparent, right? See? But the colors are showing through because of the color being pumped in here. And it's going to blast color out from the emission. Set it to weight of 2. This should look good. I can already tell. I'm going to pause it. Alright, so I did some testing, and now instead of going directly into the transmission, if you go into the emission first, right? For the emission, for the banner, have it selected. Close everything out. Now, emission, I'm going to set it to 3. So if you look here, it's bright white, meaning it's blasting out white color. Emission. It's using this card, this banner card, as a source of light, energy, and color. So it's set from 0 to 3, color of white. Right? I have it selected here, the shader. I'm going to right click on the banner image here. Drag and drop it to the color. So now this banner is going to act as a source of light, and it's going to use the colors of the image to throw out the color when it acts as a source of light. So we had set the specular weight to 0, so it's not reflective at all. The transmission, I haven't turned it on just yet. All I did was crank up the emission to 3, drag and drop its texture into the color slot. Let's do a test render. Alright, so this is what we got. Before, right? And let go. After. Before. After. So you got that halo effect. Well, mainly from the from the lens effect. But regardless, boom. Before. After. Yeah. Which is how I got some of this effect going on. But if you notice, you see how you see these lines, right? You see these lines. That's the refractive properties. You see these lines here and here. That's the refractive properties of the glass being shown through, which is how I got that effect. Whereas this one, you don't see it. This is a flat image. There's no transparency onto itself. I'm going to try to do that right now. So I did emission first. Now I'm going to go back to my transmission. Close everything so I don't confuse you guys. Transmission. I'm going to set to like 0.35 for the transmission. Meaning it's going to be transparent up to like 0.35%, or basically 30%, but it's 0.35 or 35% transparency transmission. 0.35. The color is, it further helps to fine tune the transparency of this banner so it's more see-through, so I can see the refractive properties of the glass. Hence this, see that? This banner is transparent. That's why you can see these lines, which is the glass. So I put the transparent transmission to a 0.35, and I put the color, I'm gonna put it to like here, a little bit more gray, off-white grayish. Here, around here. See what that does. Make sure I save it. Oh, I didn't save it. Save it. Alright, so this is what it looks like with the transmission dialed in. Before, after. See, it's more, you can see it transparent. before, after, before, after. So like I said, transmission 0.35, so it's going to become this much more transparent from nothing, which is here, was the weight was set to 0, now it's set to 0.35. Color, I fine-tuned it some more, dialed it back to here. Okay, so you get that fine transparency going on with the banner itself. So if I look at the banner, you'll see he's kind of transparent. See? Super neato. As a matter of fact, I want to mess with the Tom Brady one too. Tom Brady one, same thing. I selected the banner in the 3D world. I'm gonna press this so I can pull it up. This instead of digging through here. So blah blah blah. Tom Brady. I wonder if it'll work. The weight, I mean, it's pretty bright. Let me see that. 2. Alright. Color. Maybe I'll cut off the color. I'm just gonna experiment. Alright, so I paused the video and did some small experiment. Alright, so regarding Tom Brady, I wanted to do the same treatment, right? For a Michael Jordan banner. And from where I left off, transmission. This is the default value. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crank up the weight to 1. So that means that it's completely transparent. And also the depth is at 0 by default. And okay, so the color. Remember how when I was doing the experimentation, if I set it to 1, it's gonna be completely transparent for the banner, for the Tom Brady, right? And if I were to, if I set the weight to 1, the color to white, but here's the Tom Brady, right, the middle one, banner. I'm gonna have it selected, right? Then I'm gonna middle mouse click and drag the image, right here, middle mouse, click and hold and drag over to the color slot of the transmission. I repeat, the color slot of the transmission. I'm gonna let go of my middle mouse, boom. Next, so those first 2 steps, when I set the weight to 1, that means the Tom Brady banner is going to be fully transparent, like there's nothing there. And I don't want that. So to balance that out, I dragged and dropped its color texture onto the color of the transmission, which basically means you're going to see the Tom Brady, the image. I should pause, which is here. See? Remember the previous one? This is what we had before, and here it is. So, yeah, I mean, it matches this style too, and you kind of see it seeing through now, right? But I don't like the saturation, but it's getting closer to this style. So what I'm going to do is, for the emission, I'm going to set it to like a 0.35. See what it did right here? It brought everything back up again. And I have the color set to its texture for the emission. So it's gonna emit color from this texture, right? Here's the emission, which this property is to throw out color. The weight is at 0.35, not 3, not 2, but 0.35. It's very subtle. And it's going to pump out its color. It's going to emit its color, which is here. See how it's 3, it's branching out. Pump, 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 and pump into the emission color. Which I did was middle mouse, drag and drop into the color. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. Here's before. I'm gonna save it. Alright, so this is what it looks like after. Before, right? Here's the transparency on it, and after. So you still see the white card, but it's just transparent enough. Very subtle. Well, yeah. See right here, you could tell. It's very soft and subtle. Before, after. Before it's like this, after. And before even that, this. Kind of harsh, blown out, right? And even before that, this is what we had. Here and here. And then next, here, and then next, here, and then next, adding the transparency, and then next, adding this guy's transparency, and then next is this. Boom, boom. This is the final product. But let's take it further. Maybe I want to make it more subtle, showing transparency for the Tom Brady banner, because I want to show this effect. You see, remember this see-through effect for the banner? Well, the way I can fine-tune that is I first make sure I'm on the Tom Brady banner, which is the middle banner. I'm going to go over to its depth, transmission depth, meaning how deep does it go into being transparent, more or less. Blah, 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 just crank it to 100. See what happens? Now let's do a render. Alright, so this is the result. So before, see, the white card, I pumped up its depth. So it's another way of fine-tuning its transparency. Boom. Before, after. And way before that, here's this. A little bit too transparent and very contrast. And then before that, too much of a blown out white card. Maybe you like it this way, maybe you don't. But this kind of doesn't match this style. That's why I pumped back in the transparency to 1. And I put in its own texture onto its color to get that cutout effect, which was this one. I got this cutout effect by pumping in its color, its texture onto itself, cranking the weight to 1. That's how I got that initial cutout effect. Then for this this more where it's more contrast and brighter in a way, that's because of the emission. I set to 0.35, and I also pumped in its own texture onto the color. See? And then finally, I wanted to have more transparency. I did that by setting the weight to 1 and pumping its image into this color slot. And then I also set the depth to 100. That's how you got that very noticeable, see that right there? That one little thing I was looking for, and I got it. Alright, so yeah, again, set the overall. Ooh, there's one more thing. Yeah, I remember mentioning about the specular, right? Set to 0. Well, if you mess around, you crank it back up to 1. Okay. The reason I did that is I want to show this looks kind of dull and weak visually. So if I set the reflectivity of the specular to make it more metallic, it should kick back some more color and shine. So I'm going to do a render, you'll see. Alright, so here's where I brought back the specular to 1. Okay, the reason why is that whereas before it's kind of dull and opaque due to it being more transparent, right? You know, I like the transparency, but the overall image became kind of dull and opaque. Like, I don't know, faded, you could say, due to the transparency. But when I added the specular back up to make it reflective, that means it's going to receive kickback from the surrounding materials. Like this teal color, it's going to kick back color back onto this surface because it's taking on a metallic property. I don't know if you understand that, but anyway, this is the result I'm going to let go. See? Before. Wait, is it that? Not just yet. Anyhow, what I did was the transparent, the specular, I crank it back up to 1. Okay. And what I also did was to get this contrast, right? From here to here. See, it's way more contrast, but you still see some of the transparency. Watch, watch. See? Right here. It's very subtle, right? Versus this. See that? Or this, or say this before compared to this. And this. Let me save it out. Right, so here's the final product. Versus before, right? The stages. Too transparent and kind of getting dulled out to this, to this. You see the contrast. And the way I did that was, again, I cranked up the specular, okay, but what I also did was this. But I disconnected it by accident. So overall, the specular, I cranked it to 1. I also pumped its own texture, color, right, texture image, back into the specular color. Okay, so I'll show you what I did. I'm going to undo that so you can see the action. Alright, so this is what it looks like. So what I did was to get this effect back where the color is more, this Tom Brady skin tone and everything is more evident compared to something like say this, where see how it starts to get dulled out, and now we bring it back, right? That's what I'm talking about. Is that for the specular, right? I cranked it to 1. And the color, which is white, I dragged and dropped its texture image onto the color. Okay, that's what I did. Specular, weight to 1. The color, its texture, right? I drag and dropped it into the color. Which is why you got all this going on. And that's how I brought Tom Brady's image back while still looking kind of transparent. See? So before, way before, here. See? And then finally, boom. So the progress tree was transparent, but it kind of looks ugly, you know, and like burnt out. Then next, brought it back a little bit, toned it down and made it transparent, but it's kind of faded out and dull, opaque looking. Next, brighten it back up. Finally, boom. Just enough to bring back the colors. And having it kind of transparent. So that's how that was done. All right, next. Same thing for the Conor McGregor. I'm gonna do that one fast because it's way too long now. All right, Conor McGregor. Which one is that one? Is it this one? I select the shader, press this one, boom. Smallest banner, McGregor. Okay, that is the right one. Just gonna name it Conor smallest banner. Anyway, whatever. I grab it. All right. Transmission. Let's I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with Michael Jordan. Where's Michael Jordan? Jordan. Right, so I grabbed Jordan shader and Conor shader. Shift selected it. Select first, shift select the other one. I'm gonna hit this button so I can see both of it. Zoom in. Alright. Jordan banner, what did I do? Subtly different from the Tom Brady one because it has a black background. So specular transmission 0.35, color to dulled out. Alright, same thing. Conor shader set to 0.35, which is the same attributes as the Jordan shader. And I'm looking at the Jordan shader again just to see the color. It's like here. So I'm gonna grab the Conor shader and also set that right around here, just to copy its attributes. We'll select, go to its emission for Conor. I'm gonna select also the Jordan banner. His emission is set to 3, and his texture was pumped in as well for Jordan. So I'm gonna go back to the Conor one right here, set it to 3. Conor, set it to 3. I'm gonna pump its texture into its color because it's blown out. It's throwing white all over the place. So I'm gonna grab his banner, middle mouse drag, drop. Again, I didn't left click on it. I just middle mouse click and drop to the color for the emission. Weight set to 3. Alright, see what that does. Alright, so this is the end result. So here's before. See, now I'm gonna select this one after. So the only bad part is Conor is kind of blown out, the glow haze, and the image is kind of smaller, so it's harder to tell. So this is a more of a picture issue rather than the shader. I mean, what you could do is I don't know what to do. Well, I mean, if you're happy with it, it'll be good. I mean, it did its purpose. Yeah, I could bring. Well, even this specular is way up too. Right, that's the default. What if I pump in I'm thinking I'm gonna grab the corner shader, and I'm looking at its specular. Right, by default it's set to 1. I didn't change it. Its color set to white. It's gonna, have a white specular. But if I grab its texture and I'm gonna pump it into the color, again, the way I do that is first have the shader selected, middle mouse, and hover over the texture. Middle mouse, click and hold. Drag into the color slot of the specular, color slot, let go. Maybe that'll help out. And it did help. So here's before, right? And after. It brought back some of the blacks. Before was super the bloom effect, right? Was kind of overpowering. And I did that. So before, after. So that kind of helps, yeah. Before, after. So basically what I did was for the corner shader, I just want to show this part, just him. Grab it, press this button, so I only see that. What it was, I grabbed this image texture and I middle mouse drag and dropped it into its color, so that it's only showing specular reflections. It's only showing its shiny reflections of the corner image. And then when you come to here, right before here, it's super shiny, not shiny, but it's reflecting the whole entire surface. But since I mapped its texture, only this stuff is showing shininess. You'll be confused, but later on, if you continue with understanding shaders, by then you'll understand. But right now you probably won't. It just takes hundreds of hours to fully understand. Yeah, so before, let go, select, after, before, after. Alright. But I'm also thinking it could be a little bit more see-through. So under transmission, maybe I'll set the color to 1. No, that's gonna be super transparent. I'll give. Alright, yeah, that made it worse. Before, after. Well, it is transparent, before, after. So here's original, and then dialing it down, and then after, some more dialing, and finally this. The way I did that was, again, what that did was, this here is more transparent overall versus this and this, and this. Yeah, the reason why you have the glow effect more is that this card is becoming fully transparent. Whereas before, after, you see the light shining through here? See? Shining through. Whereas before, it's blocking the light. Now it's shining through. That's how you get that nice effect for this guy too. I mean, I'm kind of okay with this. Yeah, I mean, it all depends. You just don't see his face as well. So I don't know what to say. It all depends on the artist. So what I did was, again, corner shader, his color transmission, meaning it's not throwing color out. It's just how transparent it is. No, but you know what? Let me screw around with the weight. I'm gonna set it to, let's say, 0.6. All right. So again, the transmission, I dialed it up more to be more transparent. It's set to 0.6, and this is what happened. So there's before, after. So it's becoming a lot more transparent, which I'm starting to like it again because it looks like it's part of the glass, you know, versus before this. And then next, wait, let me save it. Right. So before, no dialing of the transparency or making it emit color like a light source. After, and then after some more, and finally. So I kind of like this, but I want the image to show more of his face because right now we're not too sure of who this is. So yeah, but I kind of like that too. Maybe what if I turn the weight back to 0? Alright, so here's the Tom Brady one. I want to experiment back. It looks ugly. So here's before where you see it's kind of blurry. And when I got the Tom Brady shader, the roughness, I set it to 0 roughness, which is this is result. Ugly. So at least you get to see more of the elements of each material. Whereas this line of, you know, on the Tom Brady shader, because I thought I could make the roughness to 0, but it looks like that. So maybe I'll bring it back to, I don't know, like 0.15. Alright, so this will be the last part. Yeah, so the Tom Brady, don't mess with it. Just lesson learned where I thought I could be cheeky and bring the roughness to 0. You know, because I kind of wanted this Conor McGregor effect. Crisp lines, so I can see the refractive properties of the glass, but it looked like this. So yeah, I undid that. And furthermore, so yeah, just leave it alone. Basically, leave it alone. Only for Conor McGregor's shader, you put the roughness to 0, so I can see this effect. And furthermore, I did this, where this is what it looked like before, and now it has a cool effect. It's transparent, but it's not. You know, you see through it, but you still see the black edges as well. The way I did that was under transmission, the weight is 1, and the depth is at 100. Yeah. Did I mess with the scatter too? Oh no. This is a Tom Brady one. What the hell? Okay. So the Conor one, the way I got this cool effect, whereas before this is what it was, but I have this instead, is where the weight is at 100, the color is right here. Before the color was at 100 too, I believe, yeah. But the color is going to be here. Weight is going to be at 1. The depth, this one, has to be at 100. The depth, I repeat. That's how you're going to get that cool, super cool effect. I like that a lot. Yeah. And that's about it. Yeah. Alright. So the other students, you guys can also watch this as well. And you'll get pretty much almost the same results otherwise. I might... This one is just purely off of one backlight. So I might start adding some more lights in another tutorial. But as a good start, I think this is a good start. We'll discuss fixing this as. But this was what, freaking hour and 50 minutes. But it's coming along very nicely. Yeah, I like it. So this is where we started off from way before, right? Well, I mean, not exactly, but here, 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 boom, 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 and then boom. All right, I like that. So yeah. Alright everyone, I'm going to try making another tutorial for another student. But I don't know if I may or may not have time. This took way longer than I thought. I just got too deep into it and start, experimenting a lot. But at least you get to see the progress, how it's done. Okay, bye-bye.